Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted and privileged to welcome a very, very senior and accomplished marketing and branding expert from California, USA, Mr. Corey Dissin. Corey, welcome to the show.
How are you, sir? Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Corey is a marketing and business coach. He's the owner of the Corey Dissin Companies, LLC. So, Corey, before we get into talking about business and personal branding, tell me in brief your own journey.
Oh, my goodness. Well, first the earth cooled, then the dinosaurs came. No, I'm just kidding. Um, so my background is in broadcast advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I got involved in radio at a very early age while I was still in college and got my first full-time gig at age 19 and wound up staying with that company for about 28 years.
Wow.
And went from intern, worked my way all the way up to vice president and general manager. And we were a recording studio. We made television, radio commercials for clients all over the world. And, my chops were in writing scripts and audio editing and video editing and layouts. And it was a great job. It was an excellent opportunity. And, how I got from radio, commercial production, advertising, marketing from all these other people working for a big company to doing what I'm doing now, well, it has a lot to do with my personal journey because, I'm a couple weeks away from my 50th birthday. I'm an empty nester. Both of my sons are adults and, living their lives. And it was about fulfillment and something called QTL, quality time left. I made lots of money. I had fancy cars and a big house. I got rid of all of it.
Yeah.
I got rid of all of it because what was important to me is time with my family. So I figured if I could take this knowledge and experience that I gained in the broadcast advertising world and the production world and share it with solopreneurs, business owners, teach them how to market themselves using the tools that are out there and sort of help manage them very much how I manage the staff of people in a brick and mortar location. And I could do it from my home. Sign me up. That's what I've been doing for the last working on 5 years now.
Well said, and more power to you. Corey, let's talk a little bit about the Corey Dissin Companies. And, when I was reading about you, I loved your comment that you support your clients to 10x their personal brands and their unique selling positions through social media. But let me start by asking you, what is personal branding and how do you support your clients?
That's a great question. And I'll try my best not to chew up our entire time together with my answer. I'll try to button it up as best I can. What I tell my clients, because I get that question all the time, what is branding? What is my personal brand? And most people associate a personal brand or branding with the noun, the brand. That's a logo, colors, a cool picture like what's behind my head right there, a slogan, go get it. That's what people think branding is. What I try to explain is, yes, those are pieces, but what most people don't understand is the verb of branding. That is the relentless and tenacious sharing and announcing and attaching that said logo, slogan, color scheme, picture to everything you do, because it takes that repetition for it to stick and people to get to know, like, and trust you.
Well said. Well said. And when you talk about supporting them to, increase their own presence 10 times through social media, give me some examples of where you have supported them.
Well, it's everything from teaching them how to grow their networks, contact or connection by connection, follower by follower, organically on a LinkedIn or an Instagram or a Twitter or Facebook, for example. But then it's okay. You're gathering all these connections. You're not collecting them like baseball cards or bottle caps. You have to be able to engage with them. So what is the language of engagement? What does that look like? What does commenting look like? What is a a fluffy comment, what isn't a fluffy comment. We could have a whole lesson on that too. So it's growing the network, engaging with the network, and also learning how to contribute to the conversation, which means creating content. Teach
Well
all
said.
three of those things step by step.
Well, the other question, I think you spoke about it a few minutes ago. How important is it for someone to invest in their personal brand?
I would say it's vital. It's critical. I mean, it used to be, and you and I are both old enough to remember that your business identity was very much tied to the company that you worked for. But anymore, the way the culture is now, because the world is it's very big, but it's very small because we're connected and we're very visible and we have the power to communicate very much like a big media company. You don't have to invest in millions of dollars of cameras and studios to be able to produce a video cast like you're doing now, for example. Because of those reasons, everyone, if you don't do something different to create attention and stand out, you can't be remembered. So you can't just have a sharp business card anymore or a flashy resume. You have to invest and get people to know, like, and trust you. When that happens, it doesn't matter what you sell, what you do, that person will open up their wallet and spend with you. You tell me the last time you spent a lot of money with somebody you didn't like.
Absolutely right. And a great example. Fabulous. But the other thing that a lot of people have generally had, and I think it's more people of my vintage, and I'm from the boomers generation. You're not, you're much younger. But the general thing that I hear from a lot of people is that let my work speak for itself. If it's good enough, someone will identify me. I tell them that's not good enough. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, talent and a dime will not buy you a cup of coffee anymore.
Well said.
Because there are a lot of very talented people. And, my take on that is, okay, you want to hang your hat on your talent or your craft, whatever that is. There's a lot of people out there that are less talented, have less training, less education, even less experience. They're making a bunch more money than you because they know how to hustle and get in front of somebody.
Correct. My next question to you is, what are some of the factors to be taken into account when we think of our own personal brands?
So, personal brand is such a broad topic because there's not a one size fits all solution for an entrepreneur. Sometimes it has to do with how you look. Look behind me. That shape is this. That's me. Sometimes it could be tied to something you're interested in. I had a client who is in the voiceover field, and he is very much into running for exercise. He's a marathon runner. He does charity runs, and we came up with a brand for him that said running your voiceovers to the finish. So it was we took his love, his hobby, his exercise, and tied it into who he is as a business person. Everyone's a little different. What I like to tell folks is if you're not going to hire a professional to do that, at least have a conversation with someone who can act as a mirror, a friend, a spouse, a pastor, a teacher, someone who can give you an honest, objective assessment to say, what is my perception in the market? When you look at me, when you talk to me, when you know of what I do, because you can always say what you want, but that might not necessarily be what you project or what might create some gravity towards you.
Well, the other famous line is that the personal brand is what they speak about you when you're not in the boardroom. So
well said.
So you're absolutely right with what you just told me. But my next question is that, and this is being asked of me by many young people and old people, at what stage of one's life should one start to invest in a personal brand?
Well, I mean, look, number one, I deal with entrepreneurs of all age ranges. I have, folks that are fresh out of college, and I have some that are seasoned professionals in their 60s and early 70s.
Hmm.
that have been there, done that, and have promoted themselves in many traditional ways.
Yeah.
It really depends on where you're at in your life,
Hmm.
because you have to, if you're going to do it, you have to invest in it.
Hmm.
I don't mean necessarily with money. You have to invest in it with time. It's not something you can hit the easy button or set it and forget it. You have to get your paws on it and get your hands dirty with it. So you
Hmm.
have to be willing and to devote time. So if that's at age 29, great. If it's at age 69, perfect.
Hmm. And when you get involved with someone to support them with their brand, what are some of the steps you follow?
Well, of course, there's sort of a lengthy, I don't want to say interview, but there's a lot of dialogue, whether it's a Zoom session or 2 or 3 or phone calls. I do a lot of I do like an audit of them online before I ever start with them to see how they're
Mhm.
currently positioning themselves now. I
Mhm.
always like to ask them, what are their goals? Forget about, don't come back to me with, well, here's what I think my brand is. Don't worry about that. Tell me give me your destination. If you don't know where you're going, I
Mm.
can't guide you to get there.
Correct.
And then from there, there's a lot of back and forth. It's very fluid. I always like to say branding discussions are sort of living documents,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of back and forth. And sometimes you just have that eureka moment. And that's what we're searching for, is when you hear
Mm.
that phrase or that look, and it's like, boom, the hair stands up on the back of your neck. That's what you can attach yourself to.
Mm. And is a behavioral change a precursor to personal branding?
I would say without a doubt,
Mhm.
there is a definite way to behave if you are going to attack creating, promoting a personal brand. A lot of that has to do with time management,
Mm.
discipline, doing very unsexy, boring, mundane, perfunctory tasks over and over and over again,
Mm.
not necessarily seeing the result right away. I'll tell my clients it's very similar to the original Karate Kid movie,
Mhm.
where Daniel LaRusso was being made to sand the deck and paint the fence and wax the car, wax on, wax off. And he was very angry at Mr. Miyagi. He says, I'm not learning karate. I'm doing all your chores. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden, when Mr. Miyagi throws punches and kicks at him, he immediately knows how to move his hands, because
Yes.
he had done those actions over and over and over again.
Mm.
Personal branding, believe it or not, is very much like that.
Well said. Great example. Would you also be able to share any interesting stories of some of the people you have actually worked with, without any names, of course?
Boy, there's so many, because I have so many great clients I've had the pleasure to work with. I mean, I guess I could tell you one story, and
Mhm.
I won't give him his full name, but
Yeah.
if he's watching this, he's going to figure it out
Mm.
who I'm talking about.
Mm.
But I have a client. I've had a client for a long time, but I can remember it was probably 6 or 7 years ago. He and I were
Mm.
sitting having a steak, and he said, I really want to get involved in the online influencer space. And, this is a guy who in his field, he's very brash. He's
Mm.
very provocative. He's very frank in the way he speaks.
Mm.
And go figure, his first name is Frank.
Mhm.
So we came up with the brand for him, Get More Frank.
Mm. Wow.
And that is attached to, he's got a
Mm.
podcast with that name. He's got a Facebook live show with that name. He's got thousands and thousands of followers. He's,
Mm.
got a published book. He's on the Forbes bestseller list. He's had an amazing run. And it all started with a steak and a beer 6 years ago, just he and I kind of trading, ideas.
Mm. How wonderful. Uh, my next question, you, Corey, is on culture. You live in an incredibly multicultural and diverse country. And yet we all bring our own beliefs, our own values, our own baggage with our own culture. How does culture impact personal branding?
It's interesting that you would ask that question, because I do, um, I do have to deal with that at some level because my client base is very diverse. It's not just in the United States, number one.
Yeah.
I have clients in the UK. I've had clients in Argentina.
Yeah.
I've had clients in Germany, but also even within the diverse population in the United States, you get all different shapes, sizes, colors, backgrounds, which I think is healthy. I think it's great.
Absolutely. I agree.
The way I look at it is I don't, although I factor it in when I'm dealing with someone, they know when they jump in the ring with me, what you see is what you get.
Correct.
You know, and you know, to me, I don't get into, I try not to focus on where you're from, how old you are. I'm like, I'm going to help you. This is what I know. I'm going to share it with you. Sometimes the delivery, I tweak it a little bit, but I try not to allow people to use that as a crutch. And I hope that's kind of where you were going with the question.
Absolutely. I agree with you. The other aspect that I also wanted to ask you was on thought leadership. There are several people who believe that one needs to position oneself as a thought leader in order to be able to support one's personal brand. What are your thoughts?
Couldn't agree more. And even if it's not for your personal brand, you need to act like a leader in life. You want to get somewhere, you got to be a leader. You know, that's something that was instilled in me by my parents, something I instilled in my sons, and I instill in all my clients. You know, don't let life happen to you. Make things happen in your life.
Oh, wonderful.
And in order to do that, you'd be a leader. I preach a big aspect of the go get it way is self-reliance. There's a lot of peer polling and, you know, folks who hang out in these social media groups and they post to the world, well, what should I do for this? And what logo looks better? And what color should I do that? And where should I eat dinner? And where's the best place to order a pizza? I'm not wired that way. I don't understand that. People want to hire people who are ready to make decisions. And if you're on social media and you're indecisive and you're constantly weighing the opinions of all the people you're connected to, inevitably your potential clients see that and it factors in to whether or not they have confidence in the value that you bring.
Well said. Corey, I have time for two more questions. My next question is with regard to my personal brand and the brand of my business or the company that I work for. You did mention a little while ago that most of us tend to get confused or tend to get carried away with the name of a company. How does one handle the conflict between my personal brand and the brand of the organization I work for?
Well, some of that is the dynamics of the people you work for, because that's a lot about dealing with different personalities. Some folks are going to be receptive and support that you are having a personal brand, and they understand that the better you do, the better we all do. Other folks are going to be threatened by that action. They're going to think you're going to be taking away from that. So it's tough to answer that question in a vacuum, because the personalities of the people that, if you're working for someone else, everyone treats that a little differently.
Yeah. Well said. And my last question to you, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing journey and all the learnings you've had, what would you say are 3 lessons or 3 learnings you would want to share with our viewers and listeners?
Wow, so many great lessons to share. If I could hone them down to 3, the first I'll tell you is something that I learned early on in regards to how life is not like school. Okay, you can't get any C's in the real world.
Yeah,
you can scoot through and be average and make it through, maybe even earn a diploma. But if you want to make it in the real world, you have to get A's in the real world. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is something that I learned from a gentleman that I used to work with, and I'll give him credit. His name is Dana Cavalier. You know, he taught me that consistency over time equals results. Period. Like I live my life by that. Consistency over time equals results. So many people will, on a whim go, I'm going to start this business or I'm going to do this. And then after 3 weeks, when it's not raining money, they quit. You have to do little things very, very good over and over again for many, many weeks and months in a row. And then stuff starts to happen.
Correct.
And then last but not least, it kind of ties into the consistency thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to blow up, you got to show up.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be present. You can't mail it in. You can't hit the easy button. You've got to, bring it every day. And you have to go get it. See how I put a big bow on it and circled in, put my brand in there?
Well said. And on that note, Corey, and your 3 amazing life lessons, life is not like a school. You need A's consistently. The second one you said was consistency over time is critical because that's the only thing that can deliver results. And the third one you said was you have to be present. Go get it, as you say on your t-shirt.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. I just love some of your examples. And I loved your comment, talent and a dime can't buy you a cup of coffee. And if I ever use this, I will certainly give credit to you. I love your example of get more frank. I think that's a phenomenal line. Thank you again for talking to me about personal branding, about all the amazing thoughts you've shared with me and all my viewers and listeners on branding. And finally, happy 50th birthday in a couple of weeks. Good luck to you.
Thank you,
and good luck.
The privilege was mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.